With the ongoing war in Ukraine, countries, including the U.S., have donated significant amounts of money and defense equipment. But there are concerns from some that it will pull more countries into the conflict. And joining me now is John Daniel Davidson, senior editor at the Federalist. John, welcome. So good to have you on today. Yesterday, as you know, President Biden announced $800 million of assistance to Ukraine in the form of military assistance, everything from arms and ammunition to missiles. However, some think this isn't enough. I'd like to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think that we've already provided an unprecedented level of military assistance to Ukraine, not just the $800 million that Biden announced yesterday, but since the conflict began, the administration has committed some $2 billion in security assistance to Ukraine. And this goes back also to the Trump administration as well, and the provision of arms to the Ukrainians. But we're seeing calls now for more and more advanced weapon systems, and indeed the transfer of fighter jets and advanced long-range surface-to-air missile systems to the Ukrainians as well. We've never done anything like that before. And what's striking about this is that our lawmakers and the people who are calling for this level of assistance are refusing to acknowledge that there is some inherent risk in us ratcheting up our aid to Ukraine in this way, that we might be drawn into this war as a result.
Yeah, John, let's talk about that risk.
Well, I mean, the risk is that Russia is a great power and a nuclear power. And I think it's a little bit naive to think that we can increase and keep ratcheting up our assistance to the Ukrainians, whether through the provision of more and more advanced weapons, intelligence, targeting intelligence, things like transferring MiG-29 fighter jets from Eastern European countries into Ukraine, and how exactly is that going to be done? Are they going to fly from air bases in Eastern Europe into Ukraine and then hit Russian targets? And we're just going to expect Moscow to accept that and not do anything in response. What disturbs me is that we're not even having a debate about this. The people who are calling for this escalation on the part of the West, on the part of the U.S. and NATO allies, are not even acknowledging that there is a risk involved. Just acknowledge that there's a risk and then make a case for why it's worth the risk. But instead, we're not having a debate about it.
Yeah, besides the current strategy, in supplying the weaponry to Ukraine, do you think there's another option, another way the U.S. can help and hopefully de-escalate this situation?
Well, one of the things that we need to do is to get clarity about what our end state goal is for this war and outline what we think some off-ramps might be. The U.S. could take a leadership role in trying to broker a negotiated settlement. That's how this war is going to end. It's going to end through negotiations. And so we need to be conveying to the Russians what a negotiated settlement might look like, how we could help in that. We should be doing the same for the Ukrainians. Israel is doing that right now. Israel is trying to broker some kind of a settlement between the two sides. We're not doing that. We haven't even outlined off-ramps for the sanctions that we've imposed on Russia. There's nothing that Russia could do right now that might end those sanctions. And so we're communicating confusion and contradictory policies, not just to Russia, but to the whole world. Like, we don't really know what our strategy is here for how this war is supposed to end. And so I think we need to start talking about that. We need to get clear about that. And then we need to convey that to the world at large, but also specifically to the leaders of Ukraine and Russia, because at some point the war is going to come to an end, and it's going to come to an end through a negotiated settlement. And we need to help make that happen as soon as possible.
Joe, we have probably about a minute or so left, but I'm curious, what concerns you the most at this time about what is going on in Ukraine, and where do you see this all going?
What concerns me most is that the fighting in Ukraine is going to get worse, and the Russian bombardment of Ukrainian cities and the targeting of civilians is going to get worse. And my concern right now is that the United States and NATO are giving the Ukrainians false hope, and we are encouraging them to continue to fight and continue to have their civilian centers bombarded by Russia in the false hope that we're going to come to their aid, or that we're going to impose a no-fly zone, or that we're going to go to war with Russia to put an end to this. I think we need to get realistic with ourselves and also with the Ukrainians, and begin the process of trying to broker a peace deal that brings an end to the horrible fighting over there, because it's going to get worse unless we are able to contribute to a process that will bring it to an end, so that the horrible suffering that we see online and on our televisions can come to an end as quickly as possible.
Well, John, we're going to leave it right there. Thank you so much for coming on today. Great to get your perspective.
Thanks for having me.